Hello world, I am Curtis Simpson, and this is Jectives Typography News number 45. Today is Friday, Today is Friday, April 3rd, 2026, and per usual, we have a lot of great typography news to get into today. I am going to point out right now, no episode on Monday. Today's Friday, no episode on Monday. I'm not a big Easter celebrator guy, but I have a daughter this year who is almost 1 year old. So going to be celebrating with her. Sunday is my prep day for Monday, so no episode Monday. Go enjoy the book review that I did back there. Go enjoy that instead. Or just spend time doing something non-typography related. It's okay to take a day off, guys. Today, got a little bit of a confusing story about Adobe that I'm gonna have to follow up with after this episode again, but I will point you in the direction that I am looking at right now, and maybe you can make sense of it on your own. Some really cool branding again from Studio Drama. We've talked about Studio Drama several times on the channel. So they rebranded, they did the typography in conjunction with a rebrand that Taxi Studio was doing for Warburtons, a bread company. So it's really cool though. And it's a very nice type-driven brand. So we'll look at that. I have two upcoming events. One is from Type at Cooper, gonna get you the link to that one. That one's free. And then Typographics 2026 announced their early bird pricing, so we're gonna look at that. They also listed the speakers that are gonna be there. I'm not sure if it's the full list or not, but we'll look at that. We'll look at the fonts they're using for the branding this year, and then we'll move on to new releases. So I've got 4 new releases today. We've got one from Reset Type Foundry, Ivy Type Foundry, Type of Feeling, and Nostalgic Dolphin. And then we're gonna go do deep dives into Shear by Hot Type, as well as Ipazia by Cast. If you've been following along, we looked at those in the last episode. I'm also gonna give you a preview of 2 more that we're gonna be doing deep dives into next week. I guess that'll be on Wednesday now. And that'll wrap us up once we do that. Before we get started, I just had a wild hair. Funny considering it's Easter, almost. I just had a wild hair, and I had a thought. Let me know in the comments if you guys enjoy these long live streams. I know 90% of the people that watch these don't watch them live. I'm the same way. Trust me. Like, I'll catch live streams here and there, but I always go back and just watch the replays. I don't worry a lot about catching things live. Although I really do enjoy those of you who show up and interact with me live and stuff like that. I know most people don't watch this live. Do you like these big long form videos that are 60, supposed to be 60, but sometimes 90 minutes long? Or would you prefer all of these as individual stories? I don't know if it's possible, but today I was just thinking, like, maybe the stories would be better if they were all pre-recorded. I could work on them 5 or 6 days a week and just put them out as they come up. I don't know. Just a thought. Let me know what you guys think. I know that sometimes, especially for new viewers, 60 or 90-minute video is a big ask. Obviously, the book reviews are still going to be long, but I think I can improve those too. But just in terms of typography news, would you rather see like every story as just a pre-recorded video that comes out, I don't know, a couple of them a day maybe, or, I don't know how they would work, but the individual stories, like when there's a new release, just talk about that font, put out that video, and then you know exactly what you're getting. I don't know. Let me know what you think. I like both types of content. I like to know exactly what I'm getting, and I'll watch videos based on that. And I also like to watch really long podcasts and news broadcasts, and just people that I like to hear their point of view on things. I will just watch them talk for an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours. So I like both. Let me know what you guys like, and maybe it will influence the direction of the way that this channel goes. Let me switch the camera though. Chapters will be added after this live stream ends. And as always, there's my notes right there. As always, nothing linked in the description is going to be sponsored. I forgot to pull up Vivaldi and put it on the screen. There we go, right there. None of these links are going to be sponsored, but they are all in the description for you right now. I will add chapters after the live stream ends. So I'm going to go ahead and open all three of these, but this is the story that I came across right here. It popped up on like my Google alerts, I think. This is from Gadget Review. I don't know, I don't know Gadget Review. They got the little publisher check mark. Maybe this is a good publication. I guess I probably should have vetted this a little bit. It seems fine. But they're linking to actual posts on Adobe forums and Reddit. So I'm not too worried about who wrote this article because they've got the primary sources and I can go and check those. So Adobe is accused of secretly rewriting users' computer files. It sounds more ominous than it is. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. This is what I say. Like, I'm going to point you in the direction of this. I've got all three things linked in the description. This story that's posted on Yahoo. I've got the Adobe community forum, and then I've got the Reddit the Reddit page. I got thrown off because I realized I was logged into my personal Reddit. Not a problem, but I'm just used to seeing the little eyeball. So Adobe was accused of secretly rewriting users' computer files. If you scroll down, what you find out is they edited the host's file on your computer. I checked, I can verify 100% that they did change mine. So it says they're accused. I think they're probably saying accused and alleged and stuff like that for legal purposes. So I guess we'll stick with that as well. But I can tell you that there was an Adobe addition to the hosts file on my computer, and they added exactly what's on here. They added this IP address, and in order to edit this file, you would need admin privileges. It would be the equivalent in like Mac or Linux doing like sudo and then like typing in what you need to do. Like the big pop-up that usually happens on Windows that has like it blacks out your screen and it has a pop-up and it says you need to run this as administrator. That's how I have to edit this file. I have the big pop-up. I have to run text editor as an administrator in order to edit this file. Somehow Adobe is able to edit this like super deep file that is equivalent to essentially like what malware would be doing to your computer. The only other edit I had on that was from a Docker containers that I had set up with Docker and Kubernetes and stuff like that, which I expected to be there because I did that with administrator privileges. So I don't know. This is going all the way back 13 days ago, almost 2 weeks ago. So this was like mid-March when this got brought up and other people started talking about it. And now, even 11 hours ago, there's still people posting on the Adobe forum about this, as well as on the subreddit 19 days ago, the Adobe subreddit, people were asking about it. Let's see if there's anything new on this one. And 9 hours ago, people are still noticing it. So I did the same thing this person said, Swordstar, gosh. I see you, Anji. Swordstar did the same thing. They're on Mac, but I'm on PC. They went in, deleted the lines, restarted the computer, opened CC, and it didn't appear yet. That's the same thing that happened to me. But a lot of people are really pissed off about this. I don't know if they are... I don't know if people are mad about this because they understand what's happening or if they're mad about it because they don't understand what's happening. I am completely... I'm neutral on it right now. It seems strange that they're able to edit a file that I personally need admin privileges to edit. I've seen IT comments on here saying, in like on this subreddit here, IT comments saying like, this is equivalent to malware. We had to change this. This was like a security issue. So something to be aware of. I will follow up. I'm going to do my own research and try to talk to people smarter than me and figure this out. But just to put it on your radar, you might want to go delete those as well. Anji Studio here says, this is in reply to the live stream stuff, I think. Anji Studio says, for me, when I'm not watching a live, one that comes first are the links and the description. Those are very helpful. Then just go back to the topics timestamps. Okay, cool. Thanks for letting me know. Yeah, I definitely put the chapters there to help people like skip through because I guess that's kind of similar to the clips. If we're being honest, like if people know there are chapters, then they can definitely go through and like skip to the things that they're interested in. My only concern, like my biggest concern with this idea is that I know my thumbnails are super boring. I just use a template because I'm trying to get people like used to the branding, you know, and also it takes a long time to come up with good thumbnails. But I'm not trying to like clickbait people into thumbnails. You're never going to see me with the O face on like a thumbnail. I don't know. Yeah. So, but I was just thinking like if people could see the actual font on the thumbnail, maybe they would like that better. Anyway, anybody that's watching in the replay or watching now, go ahead and let me know what you guys think. We're going to get back to the stories. This one here, much more positive, much less ominous. It is coming from Studio Drama, who we have talked about several times on the channel, I think at least twice. Let me make sure my face is not on the screen. Yeah, let's go ahead and take me off of here. So this is Warburtons. I was not familiar with Warburtons, but it is a bakery. It's a bread baking company. Warburtons is Britain's most chosen. I don't know what that actually means. With more than 70 products across multiple categories. It's a bread brand. Let's just say that. So here's some nice animations and stuff where they're showing what the packaging looks like. This means very little to somebody that doesn't know what it looks like. So we're going to get to that here in a second. We're going to start out looking at this on, oh, that's the wrong one. We're going to start out looking at this on Studio Drama. Then we're going to skip over to Taxi Studio. So Studio Drama was commissioned to create this bespoke typeface as well as the word mark for this British bread brand on behalf of Taxi Studio. So Taxi Studios was heading up the rebrand and Studio Drama did the typography for it. That's mostly what we're interested in here. This is a very, very type-driven brand. And even knowing nothing about Warburtons, already this logo is cool. It's not too far away from the original. The previous logo was squished like this as well, but I like the combination with the sandwich there. It just works. So they're showing some refinements here, but you know, they're working on the ligatures. They put the U in the center. I think the U wasn't actually centered in the old one. We're going to be able to see it before and after here in a second. And they've got a little bit more of an arch, I think. So we'll keep scrolling through this because if you're not familiar with it, it's not really going to matter. This one right here, this before and after that they're showing is so subtle. I mean, especially since they're changing colors from the positive to the negative, it makes it very difficult to see the difference. From what I can see, the ascenders look a little taller in the after, which is probably good. And then it looks like they worked on the spacing of the letters themselves to get that U in the middle. But this typeface that they've created, you can see it over there on the right, is based on the logo. So the branding really works well. And I love orange. I know my brand, the Jectives brand is green. That was very strategically done. But I love orange. So I probably report on more orange brands than I should. But here we get it. Warbs is the name of the typeface. There is Warbs Condensed, Warbs Body, and Warbs Headline. I've mentioned this before. I was never like, I never cared about condensed typefaces until I started this channel, and now I appreciate condensed typefaces so much more. You can just, there's times when you need to squeeze stuff in, and it's so useful. Headline, you can see they've got the display typeface on here, and these all feel perfectly matching, but the headline is definitely the most playful. You can see that tittle on the eye, the dot on the eye smashing into that there. Yeah, that's really fun. They've kind of exaggerated a lot of the features and stuff, especially you can see on the D there, the ascender is much shorter, the bowl is much bigger, the counter is much smaller. So we're not going to dig into like all of the copywriting and stuff they put on here. We're mostly just going to look at the visuals and drool over them. Okay, we got some comments in the chat. I'll read those when we get through this here. Thank you for the feedback. So we've got the full type family right here. So condensed comes in 4 different weights, body comes in 3, and then headline just comes in super thick. I think super thick is one word. Yeah, because they've just got one ABC there. But this is a nice collection. I mean, a nice family. They've got 8 different styles there. I wonder if they have italics though. That'd be kind of weird if they did all of this and then the body didn't have italics. we will get there in a second. So I like all the things that they did. They've done like the sliced off bits. You know, we know that's a pretty common feature, but like they're using sliced off bits and doughy and flared bits and stuff. Like they're really lowercase letters baked for longer so that they grew taller. Like they're putting all these like clever things in, which I really enjoy. And I'm sure that this makes the style guide much more fun and probably a little bit more memorable. But it really does feel very much like a bakery. It feels very doughy, like they're saying. And you can see the different eyes here. So we've got condensed body and then the headline. So you can see the headline really does kind of punch down into it. And we can get into some of the branding, how they're using all the typography here. A lot of these are mock-ups and stuff. You know, they're not like real branding and stuff like that yet. But there you go, right there. They're using on the ingredients. That's a great... that's like a perfect use case right there, like some real world stuff, not just big words being used. And you could see that's very, very legible. And the bold works well to stand out a little bit there. The 4 different weights they have on that one, or maybe there's 3 different weights on that one, 4 on the condensed. Yeah, that looks great. We'll go ahead and scroll through this. Yeah, they're showing right here how they pulled the typeface that they designed, Warbs, from the logo. They did redesign this logo, so like they had the advantage of being able to edit both of these at once, but it really does work well. Yeah, I'm really impressed with this. I'm not, like I said, I'm not familiar with the brand, but there are some before and afters when we get to Taxi Studio here in just a second, and you'll get to see how much better the packaging and stuff is. The packaging wasn't terrible before by any means. Here's a little bit of the packaging. We could look at this right here. You're going to see even more of it when we get to Taxi because they've got like 20 different packages. But you can see, so the clear ones, let's see, the full color backgrounds are the new ones. So the white backgrounds are the old ones. I think it looks nice. I don't think the old ones look bad, but the new ones look nice. And, you know, now I think they probably have their own typeface. I'm not sure that they had their own typeface before, because you can see they were just using, they're using several different, yeah, look, there's 3 different packages here with 3 different fonts on it. So now it looks like the brand is much, much more unified. Yeah, it really does look way more unified now. Go ahead and finish this up. I'm going to scroll through pretty quick through this bottom part because I want to get to, oh, it looks like they got an alternate for the A there. No ligature on the double F though. Interesting. Oh, discretionary ligatures. Let's see what they are. They've got the FT. Are they actually pulling it together though? Oh, okay. So that's not bad. So they just lined up the crossbars when the F and the T are next to each other. That makes sense. Yeah, that looks way better. Look at this sift right here on the top compared to the bottom. That's crazy how just that small change. It almost makes you wonder why they didn't do that in the beginning, but maybe the T would just be too small on its own like that. Cool. Okay, so let's go ahead and go over to Warburtons and then, or I mean, go over to Warburtons. Go over to the Taxi Studio. Look at this little elephant right here. I'm going to scroll down real quick so we can see what he does. Because when you get all the way to the bottom of the page, if we can get there, oh, we're almost there. Splash. He splashes into that bottom part there. Okay, enough distractions, Curtis. So they've got a lot of the same branding material on here, but you're going to get out more than just typography. So they've got the baked orange Pantone color there. They've got some more items there. But here's what I was talking about, where you really get, see if we can get this full screen here. Oops, that was not full screen. There we go. Yeah. You can really see the difference that this makes across the board. They all feel like the same brand. Not that they felt super disconnected before because they all have the logo on them, but like, look at all the different typefaces they're using on the white and gray versus the colors. Everything just feels, yeah, these could have looked like 16 different brands. If you took off the logo, now you could take off the logo and they'd all feel like the same brand. I think this is an excellent execution, and it really is pretty type driven. You know, they've got the different colors, they've got the different images and stuff that we're going to look at in here in just a second. But I think that the type is really, see, they've got these pictures here and they all feel very similar, which is nice. But I really do think when it comes down to it, the type is driving this. So I think that's probably enough of looking at this one. Let me throw the face cam on real quick, and I'm going to reply to chat while I get ready for some new releases. Oh, that's not the face cam. That's the face cam. So again, just to repeat, I was asking about changing the format and maybe not doing these super long live streams and doing like individual videos. Basically, each topic we're talking about right now would be a separate video with a separate thumbnail. Jim Girth says, I like the thumbnails, very catchy with the eye, and being the same helps to recognize it, in my opinion. Yeah, that was my thought. I know, like, I feel like, I mean, my channel's so small right now that the brand recognition has got to be absolutely tiny. So, like, if you see that mint green thumbnail with the big typography news on it, even though they all look the same, they have different numbers. But, like, if you've only seen one, then you see another, you're like, oh, yeah, I remember that. Maybe. ONG Studio says, since I'm more of a text person, the thumbnails work just fine. And then I think we get into... then we start talking about the branding that's on here. Yeah, the unified ligature is nice. These up here. I saw some people on typo.social talking about how, oh gosh, you guys can't see it. I saw some people on typo.social talking about how you should never use ligatures in a logo. I was like, what world are we living in right now? I don't know. And they were like prominent type designers. I had never heard that before in any classroom I'd ever been in, any study, any like book that I've ever read. But I don't know, these type designers were saying that never use a ligature unless you like absolutely have to. I was shocked, unless it was some kind of joke that I just didn't understand. Okay, let's switch to, oh, we have two events. I apologize. Let's get to some events here. This full screen is kind of clean. I don't know if it's going to throw me off or not, but we'll stick with it until we get to Affinity, and I need to start switching back and forth. So this is linked in the description. This is free. This is on Monday. I guess this is something you could do on Monday since I'm not going to have a live stream. Typographic signals, phototypesetting as a new form of writing with Katharina Walter. Phototypesetting is something that it's like the thing that gets skipped over in school. When you're in school, you learn about metal type, and then all of a sudden you're just in digital. And so for me, at least, I never learned anything about phototypesetting. The only things I know about phototypesetting are things that have just been on YouTube randomly that I've kind of come across and seen like super old interviews from gosh, I don't even know when the typesetting, this is how little I know, like the 70s, maybe? Is that when they were doing it? I know digital came out in the 80s. But yeah, I know nothing about phototypesetting, so I'm really interested to watch this. I really want to learn more about phototypesetting, even though it's a dead technology, but I just kind of want to learn more about it. So that's coming up. It's free. You can register. The link on there will go to register for the Zoom meeting, so you can go there and you can kind of like, typically at the end of these, they'll have not frequent asked questions, they'll have Q&A at the end so you can interact with it. But these are 99% of the time also live streamed on YouTube. So if you just subscribe to the Type at Cooper YouTube channel, it'll pop up on there. And then if you don't see the live stream, it'll just pop up in your subscription. So I'm probably going to try to watch this live, but if I don't, I never worry about it with Type at Cooper, because they do post them onto, they have the replays available on YouTube immediately. Next up is Typographics 2026. Let me make sure I'm not in the way again. Okay, perfect. This was like, I don't remember which typography news it was, but I remember this, I did a whole episode on Typographics 2025. So this is like the first conference that I covered. I wasn't actually there, obviously, but they live streamed almost all of it. And so I just spent like 3 days watching this, 2 days maybe watching this live on YouTube. And I had so much fun watching all of the speakers and stuff. So if you are someone that wants to go to New York in June, or maybe you already live in New York, June 26, 27, they've got the early bird pricing on here. So tickets will never be as cheap as they are right now. Not a fan of FOMO, but it does help support them if you buy them early, if you're already going to go anyway. So they've got the full list of speakers here. I'll be honest, once again, I don't recognize most of these people. Maybe I will once I look into like their backgrounds. Maybe I'll see some people in foundries or things that I've seen people work on. But this is great because it's new people for me to be introduced to. Maybe it's new people for you as well. So I'm excited to like go through these ahead of time before the presentations and stuff in June. And then Kelly Anderson, she put out that book this year with the pop-ups, so I recognize her. But yeah, I'm excited to go through these. Emily Oberman, I think probably everybody recognizes her from Pentagram. But yeah, I'm excited to be introduced to some new people, and then I'm excited for this. I know it's still like 2 months away, 2.5 months away, but it's pretty cool that this is getting going. And then the typeface that's being used on there was one of the first ones I reported on this channel, and it is dual casual. I noticed when I scroll like this, sometimes it's kind of jagged on the screen, so I'm just going to stop so we can look at this for a second. But we can see where it says Burton Hasid. That is written in dual casual, which is dual types typeface. And look, it's real text. You can highlight it. Very nice. But let me get down to the bottom here because the other one is Owners and Owners Text by MCKL Type. So I guess I didn't really need to scroll down that far. This here is Owners and Owners Text. So I like that they always put the typefaces on there. Last year, oh gosh, I can't remember who it was last year now. Anyway, I think last year it was called Tick. Man, I'll be shocked if I actually remember that right. Anyway, so that is Typographics 2026. It's going to be June 26th and 27th in New York City. If this is once again live streamed on YouTube, I will definitely be covering it. I won't be like putting the live stream on mine, but we could do like a watch along or something like that, and then I'll obviously cover it whenever the next episode of Typography News comes up. New releases. We got 4 new releases. Let's go ahead and get into these. Get another drink of water. I got a fan over here blowing and it's drying my mouth out. Okay, we're gonna have to get out of full screen. Close all of these things. Let me check chat real quick before I hop into this. Okay, perfect. So this first one here is from Reset Type Foundry. It is Resolut. Resolut is a stencil typeface that sometimes you see these stencil typefaces and you're like, do I know this? Do I not know this? I'm not sure if I did or not. But I have a funny coincidence because I was looking through new, there was an announcement for a new website by Resistenza this week. And I was testing out their new website. Oh, it's got dark mode now. Going through their fonts. And when I got to stencil, I saw a font called Revolut. So I am planning to do a deep dive of this Resolut, RST Resolut. That's the real name of the revival that they are reviving and evolving here. It's originally by Hans Bruno. Hopefully I'm saying they're at 1937. But I just found it so, I don't know, it's just a coincidence, I guess, that Revolut by Resistenza was done in 2024. So it'll be interesting to compare these. Theirs looks more like a standard revival that looks, a lot like the original did. Let me show you the difference between what Reset Type Foundry is doing here. You might notice there are some sharp corners here. I'm in the journal section right now, so both of these are linked in the description. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down. Here is the inspiration. This is where it came from right here. This Del Football Heroico. This stencil typeface right here. This is the original Resolut. I love this one right here. This is an actual type specimen from the Nebbiolo Type Foundry. That looks beautiful. The overprinting. Maybe it's not overprinted. Maybe they just, yeah, it's overprinted because you can see right there. But it looks nice. I'm not typically a big fan of stencil fonts. Let me make sure I'm not covering anything up. I'm not typically like a huge fan of stencil fonts, but the original one looks pretty nice. And I'm interested to test out their reinterpretation because that's the difference here. So here's the big deal with this one. You've got the original on the left. You've got the revival in the middle. So that's what you would expect. And I think that's similar to what we saw just a second ago from Resistenza. But this is Reset Type Foundry's revival in the middle here. And then they've got their reinterpretation on the right. So you can see rather than like this curved, I don't know if these are images. Yeah, these are images. So you can see we've got this curved R, the little leg on the R here, and that's beautiful. I love that. The reinterpretation here, it goes a lot sharper. So they're taking a lot of these curves and making them sharper. They've added the tail to the T here. I'm sure there are a ton of things we can go through, but you can see on the capital R and then the lowercase s, specifically, they're sharpening things up. And the fun thing about this, if that wasn't fun enough, the fun thing about this is that it's variable. So they've got eight different weights here. And not only is the weight variable, but the standard versus classic is variable, which seems wild to me. I don't know anybody, I'm not sure why you would want the one in the middle, but if we look at this image right here on the right, oh, maybe it's not. It looks like it's a variable, but it's just actually clicking over. Did you see that? If you watch it real close, when it gets to the middle, snap, it snaps over. So we'll have to test this out. I do already have the review license for this one, but we're gonna look at this next week when we do a deep dive on it. So it seems pretty cool. It's another revival, but it's one that I wasn't previously familiar with, and it might just change my mind on stencil fonts. The other thing it seems like they're doing, I'm not sure, like any of these Resolutes that we see in the originals, they all seem, they've got different optical sizes here, but they all seem pretty bold. So I'll have to look and see if they had some of these thinner sizes that Reset's doing here. I'm not sure that they had these really thin stencil ones, but it seems interesting. This is it right here, but I think the journal part told us enough. We'll do the deep dive next week on this one for sure. The next new release here, go ahead and get a drink of water while I pull this one up. I noticed this first on typo.social, so I'm going to give this a shout out real quick. If you are into typography and you would like an algorithm-free social media experience, typo.social is the Mastodon server for all of us type enthusiasts and type nerds. And John Mack here, the designer of this, hopefully I'm saying the name right, the founder and designer at Ivy Foundry, put this out and announced it right here, and gave a shout out to Fonts in Use. Gives a little bit more backstory than this page right here does. But man, this looks beautiful. Already you can see some swashes on there. This is also a revival of the typeface Mazarin. Hopefully I'm saying that right as well. Let me check my notes on this one. 10 styles, 5 weights, plus italics. This one's variable. It's got a weight axis, and then it's got 2 different variable fonts. So you've got a variable for the italic and a variable for the Roman. Don't have glyph counts or anything like that, but shout out to Tiffany Wardle at the Type Founders. She did get me the review license for this already, so I'll be able to test this out before the next episode, which is going to be on Wednesday. So I do already have my deep dives sort of planned for Wednesday, but since we're not doing a live stream on Monday, maybe we'll be able to squeeze in some more. If not, this will be at the end of next week. But you can see already, look how deep this goes. Let me see if we can scroll through some of these. Yeah, I don't know. Another typeface that like I wasn't familiar with. I wasn't Mazarin. I'm like, let's check this typo.social. It says Mazarin was licensed by Stevenson Blank in 1926, originally called Astray. I'm not sure how to say that. Designed by Robert Gerard, published by Deberny and Peignot in 1923. And then they gave a shout out to Fonts in Use there to help them with the original specimens and stuff. But yeah, so another revival. Looks really, really nice. So I'll be interested to compare this to the original, but just to test all of this out, you can already see the ligature there with the FF on riff. This looks really, really nice. This is IvyMazarin coming out of Ivy Foundry, and we will definitely be doing a deep dive on this one very, very soon. Our third new type release here. There it is. Our third new release this episode is coming from Type of Feeling. This one is called Gravitas. More specifically, it is TOF Gravitas. Gravitas, the thing that I found most interesting about this one, well, first of all, they're saying that it evokes a sense of authority but doesn't need to shout. The one thing that I would push back here is like they're always putting this in capitals and they're writing it really, really big. So they can say that it's not shouting, but man, is this ever shouting. But it does look nice. You know, it reminds you of exactly what's on this computer right here. It reminds you of like those old Apple advertisements and stuff like that. Does this have a lowercase? Yeah, there it is. It reminds you of those compressed serif typefaces from a few decades ago, in my opinion. You can download a trial on here, and that's what I did. And the interesting thing for me is that when I downloaded the trial, I dropped it in Wacom Fondue, as I always do when I first get a typeface downloaded. Man, that looks nice though, doesn't it? And I found something kind of strange, and that is that the designer's name on there was Zellotype. So this is Zellotype right here. If you look at the, should we just pull it up real quick? Let's just pull it up real quick and I can show you. If we pull this up, going off script, it'll just take a second though. I've got this very well organized. I've got all my folders well organized. So what I'm going to do right now on Wacom Fondue is I'm going to drop in this Gravitas trial. Just drag and drop. There it is. And when you zoom in right here on designer, you can see the metadata says Zellotype and Type of Feeling. I challenge you to find Zellotype's name mentioned anywhere on Type of Feeling. For context, Type of Feeling is Jessica Walsh's Type Foundry that spun out of And Walsh, which was, you know, it's And Walsh because she was originally had a partnership with Sagmeister. Sagmeister and Walsh became just And Walsh. And then just recently they launched Type of Feeling, which mostly does bespoke typefaces for their branding projects, but they do have, you know, a growing library of retail typefaces. So I was pretty excited to see this, dig into it, and download the trial. I just found it so strange that Zellotype was the primary name on this, and then Type of Feeling. You can download the PDF, and the PDF specimen, Zellotype will not be mentioned. You can look all through this webpage. Zellotype will not be mentioned. I did reach out to Zellotype on Instagram and email, and I also reached out to Type of Feeling to get a comment. I have not heard back yet. So I'll report back if I hear anything. Otherwise, I'll test this out, but I don't see really doing a deep dive on it unless I hear back, because I think that gives context. You can see here, Zellotype's got some nice typefaces on the website, and it wouldn't be, you know, I'm assuming we're looking at the right Zellotype here. It wouldn't be out of character for any of these. You could imagine the person who designed these three typefaces right here could also design this typeface. I'm just wondering why they're not mentioned anywhere, but they are in the metadata there. So interesting, nice typeface. Jim says I love this one. Yeah, it's very nice. I think you're talking about this one. Yeah, 1 minute ago. I agree. It's very nice. I can't put my finger on exactly what it reminds me of, but yeah, some of those like vintage typefaces from like the 70s, 80s, when it would just be like big text on an advertisement like Apple used to do. And Volkswagen used to do that kind of thing too. Volkswagen long before Apple, of course. But yeah, so hopefully I can hear more about that and I will report back. But our last new release this episode is coming from Nostalgic Dolphin. This is Igor Petrovich. Hopefully I'm saying that right. It's Type Foundry. Let me try to say this right. Plemenit, I think, is how this is supposed to be pronounced. I believe it's Slavic. Plemenit rounded, and Plemenit means like aristocratic or noble, and that comes into play because this typeface is labeled as a noble tech font family or a noble tech personality, which is kind of fun and kind of interesting. You can see it's a very square typeface, but it's rounded, and they make Igor here makes a very big point about rounded. I'll just go ahead and read this here. Rounded fonts are typically derived from sharp cornered originals. So think Helvetica rounded, think Arial rounded. They have those sharp corners, and then they just round the corners. We've seen this on other releases. I don't cover a lot of them because when somebody rounds the corners, it's exactly this. A shortcut that rarely gives satisfying results. Agreed. Plemenit takes a different approach. It was planned and designed as a rounded from the ground up. Its corners are naturally shaped as shallow super ellipses, avoiding the awkwardness of generic rounding. So I'm not going to read all of it. We'll get into this if I end up doing a deep dive on this in a future episode. But you can see right off the bat, it does feel very, I don't know, it almost feels like a thick like marker, a thick marker typeface font. But yeah, you can tell that it's not just a typeface that has been rounded off. Everything here feels very intentional. And it doesn't feel completely unlike other rounded typefaces. I think that it would be a little unfair to say that every rounded typeface comes from that shortcut of just rounding off the serifs. But I would agree that many of them do. At least many typefaces are originally designed with the sharp, the standard squared off sharp terminals, and then they create the rounded based on that skeleton. This here, there is no sharp version of it. There's only the rounded version of it, and I think that does make a difference when you're thinking about how to approach this type of design. So this one might not knock your socks off, but I do think that it's an interesting conversation, or at least an interesting point. And if I do a deep dive on this, you can believe that I will absolutely be comparing this to those typefaces where they do just round off the edges, and we can see how it compares. This one this one's, let me see here. They're calling this a display typeface, so they are using it in the text here a little bit for body copy, but they are calling this a display typeface. And I think that without italics, I would have to agree with that. It's hard to have a workhorse typeface when it's not italics. This also has, it does have 9 weights, but it's only got 254 glyphs and 6 open type features, because I do have the full trial on this one. But you could see, I think it could work pretty well for an interfacing font. A couple of episodes ago, we were looking at Massdriver's UI, super in-depth, like purpose-built UI interfacing font. But I think that it could work for something like that. Like if you're just looking at things like small segments of text, a few words at a time, a phone number, a name. I think that this this airline ticket works fine. But you're not going to be, I think it works nice for that, and you could use it for display, obviously. But when it comes to actually using this as a workhorse typeface, or even wayfinding, they have the arrows, but they don't have circled or squared numbers. So I think you'd need to put those in there, and then put the italic in there, and then this would be a really solid font. But the specimens look nice. I think they do a good job of presenting this for what it is. Rounded fonts aren't for everybody or every situation, but in the right context, they do add a lot of warmth, a lot of humanity, a lot of, just some softness to it. So I think that's enough of looking at these new releases. This one's from Nostalgic Dolphin. Let me scroll back up to the top here. Plemenit Rounded. Looks pretty nice. And it looks unlike a lot of the typefaces that we see on here. We don't look at a lot of rounded typefaces, but I am a fan. So I'm going to switch over to Affinity real quick and give you a preview of 2 typefaces that we're going to be looking at next week for deep dives, and then we'll get into the real deep dives this week. Oh, Jim is giving me a compliment here, it seems like. Jim says, I love your ability to feature fonts that I might pass by at first glance without much thought, but very quickly come to love in just a few minutes of you talking about them. Quite like this one. Yeah, I quite like this one as well. I appreciate the kind words. ONG Studio says it works well in small sizes. Yeah, it's not. This is Plemenit round. Let me check right here. Oh, that's Vera Sands. Okay, let's get back down to the body copy stuff. I think it works in the body copy. They were the ones that were stating that it was a display typeface. I think it works fine right there. I would agree with that. But if you were actually writing a book, please have italics, because you're going to need them at some point. Okay. I apologize. First up here, just a couple of previews. We talked about this last week. We're going to look at Formigari's scenery next week. I've got the full trial license on this one. I was actually planning on doing this one today, but it's got so much interesting stuff that I was feeling a little bit rushed for it, rushed to get it out today. And also I'm trying to get the timing on these down closer to an hour. So not going to have time to look at this one. Also, we've got WEFs coming out of, WEFs is coming out of overlap type. So these two new releases that we talked about in the last episode will be talked about in the next episode. We'll be doing some deep dives. And you can see over here, Wefs has some ornamentation as well. I went ahead and played around and set the details in that because we don't necessarily need to look at them today. ONG Studio says, Gravitas' upcoming font GT Mechanic is the opposite of this. Funny enough, I don't remember what episode it was, but I did preview Mechanic because I actually had early access to it. See if we can pull it up real quick before we get into this deep dive. I guess this is one of the benefits of going live, right? Yeah, I've got Mechanic right here. All three of these. Yeah, it's very sharp. Yeah, this one here, I think Mechanic, the thing that I loved about Mechanic, the variable on this could go from, you could do the variable from mono to the sans. Like there was a variable slider between the two, and it just grows out. I don't know why anybody would do it, but it worked pretty well. The interpolation was pretty clean. Okay. I wasn't sure when I showed Mechanic last time if I was actually allowed to show it. I think that was like a month or two ago now. So I haven't talked about it much, but I know they've been previewing it a little bit now. So the first one we're going to be talking about today is Hot Type's Shear. Let me go ahead and pull up their website first because they've got some very, very, very nice specimens. And we will see if it lives up to the specimens. Sometimes you see really beautiful specimens and then you put them to use yourself and you're like, oh, what am I actually going to do with this? I do think Shear, much like some of the inspirations, this is they mentioned this is similar to something like an Impact. I do think that like a font like Impact, now it's the meme font, but I think a font like that, it's very case or not case, but like it's very use specific, case specific. And I think Shear is no different. My initial reaction was like, oh, that reminds me of that Post Malone album that came out like a decade ago, where he had those really sheared obliques on the for the branding and stuff. Maybe it's just the yellow that reminds me of that. I didn't actually go back and look. But you can see this has got quite a bit of language support right off the bat. We've got Cyrillic on there and Latin at least. But it looks really cool, and I really like the specimens that they put out. And I think if we scroll down here, they don't show you much, but if you go back up to the more info, we covered this last time, so I'm not going to go super deep into the background and history and stuff. But as I scroll through this, I'll just let you know. There are 4 different widths. Extra condensed, extended, extra extended, but there are no weights. There's just 4 different widths and then 5 different shearing angles, like 5 different angles. So these are the inspirations right there. But there you go right there. 4 different widths, 5 different angles. So it's got the black back slant of 40 degrees, 20 degrees, the neutral 0 degrees, and then it's got the slant of 20 and 40. And this is one of those ones where I kind of get excited seeing it, and then I pull it up in Affinity. I'm like, wait a minute. If you have the right project for this, I'm sure, absolutely. If you needed something with some speed, if you had an event that you wanted to be that you wanted to imply that it's going to be fast, or you wanted to imply, I don't know, the speed of anything. It could be music, fast music, speed metal. It could be cars. It could be any kind of racing, running, something like that. You could throw this on like a sports poster or something. I could see the context that it could work, but I had a couple problems with it. We'll get into those here in a second. But here are the designers right here. Go ahead and show these on the screen because I already know I'm going to mispronounce these if I try to. The first 2 are the Latin. The third name there, Diana, is did the Cyrillics for this one. 20 styles, like I said. It's static, no variable font. I was hoping there would be a variable to be able to go between those different angles, but I think the problem would be the interpolation between them. I think it might not necessarily look great. 705 glyphs there, 18 OpenType features. You could purchase this from the Foundry. They do, thankfully, have full trials, so you can download the trial right now. Link is in the description, not sponsored. You can download the trial right now and go and look at this. 700 euros for the full family, so that's going to be all 20 styles. These 4 different widths right here, plus those, so 20 different styles for 700 euros. Standard license on this one, what you would kind of expect. Let me go ahead and show you all the different weights real quick, and then I'll show you some widths. So this is the condensed, this is the No, this is the extra condensed. This is the condensed. This one feels familiar to me. It feels like in my brain, it feels like the compact disc thing, I'm sure if we actually looked it up, I don't know that it would. Was compact disc all lowercase? I kind of feel like it was. Maybe not. It kind of feels like something like that, but I didn't actually go to check and see if it was, but it feels familiar. But I think that's my favorite one. Shear expanded, that's nice too. Shear ultra expanded. Now we're getting so big I had to alter the little specimen right here. But I think that these work pretty well together, and this could definitely be very strong display typography. Let's get into my first issue that I had with it, and that's a very technical one. I know you probably won't be able to see, but up here on the top left, there's only three different styles for this. I use this in, typically I use font base to like put my fonts on here. I put those in here like that, but then I actually had to remove them because I was like, maybe that's the problem. You can see they're not installed right here. All four of those were, but now they're not. I had to install these on my system, and just to check to see if font base was the problem, and it wasn't. It still only got 3 styles on this one, 3 styles on this one. I've got all 5 on expanded, so that's the one we're gonna look at, and I've only got 4 on condensed. So even though I've got all 20 styles installed, only, we're missing quite a few of them. We got 3, 3, 4, and 5. So we're missing 5 different fonts, 2 from 2 different ones and 1 from 1. So I need to look at expanded to actually show you all of the slants. Let's go ahead and do that. The slants do look pretty nice. I've never really understood what you're going to do with a back slant, especially if you don't have variable. I mean, if you had the variable, but maybe, this is a display font, so I guess there's probably some use case. I just have never personally ran into a use case where I was like, oh, you know what I want is a back slant. It must exist for some reason, and I'm sure there's some very expressive way to use this. That's even if you never had a use case for it, you could use it like this and it looks perfectly fine. This looks really nice. So that's the one problem I did have with those. I don't think we need to like go through. This doesn't have a bunch of alternates and things like that. But the one fun thing it does have, which is surprising for a display typeface like this, if you're familiar with the channel, you know what this slash is right here. First, I'll just point out it does have case-sensitive punctuation, so you can see this is a little below the baseline. If you had caps or numbers, you can turn on that case-sensitive form, and it'll fix that for you, which is nice. But more interesting is that this has fractions. So I always love when they give you the real fractions rather than just the subset, just a few pre-made fractions. So you can turn on any of the fractions there. You also have the /0. Not in fractions though. Let's turn that off. You do have the /0, and then you also have standard ligatures, which basically they're giving you the IJ right here. I'm not sure what other, I guess we could test this out real fast and see if they've got anything. Yeah, I'm not sure what other ligatures they might have on here. It's not, it's got 705 glyphs, but you also got a lot of language support because you're doing the Cyrillic with it. So you've got the Dutch IJ ligature there. But otherwise, you kind of get what you get. It's very specific use cases. But man, if that was your use case, this looks beautiful. I don't know. Yeah, it looks great. But this is it in the headline. It looks nice as the headline. This is it in body copy. It looks awful, as expected. You wouldn't, it's not the intended use. This should not be judged based on body copy, but it's just fun to throw it in there and see how it is. I mentioned this in the last episode as well. Sometimes you can use stuff like this in body copy just for some texture. But I would really just kind of stray away from it unless you didn't need it to be legible at all. Let's go ahead and compare this real quick to Impact. So Shear is in red, Impact is in black there, and you can see right off the bat they're quite different. This was not supposed to be a revival. It's just kind of along those same lines, and they mentioned it, so that's why I bring it up. They also mentioned 2 other typefaces that I was not familiar with and do not have access to. But you can see like there is a similar vibe to it. Like it's a very impactful typeface. Red is Shear. Red is on the bottom. That is Shear. You can see like the similarities in some cases. The X height is obviously much higher on Impact there. So I think Shear probably is surprisingly maybe a little bit more legible. But impact also isn't going to have all those different weights. So if we tab out of this, immediately you are you're going to be ahead of impact if you just start looking at the weights on this. Why am I? Okay. I lost my concept. Oh, I know why. Just kidding. You're already going to be out of it because you're not going to have, you know, the different slants and stuff like that. And you're also not going to have the different widths. The other downside about this is that all 4 of these are 4 different fonts. So you can see these are 4 different typeface, like they're 4 different installs. So you can't easily just go from one. You can't go from condensed to expanded. You'd have to actually go up and like change the font in the menu, which isn't the end of the world, but if you wanted to like combine them together, could be a little frustrating. The one thing I want to show you with shear and impact here, this is impact that I have sheared. So if we zoom in on this right here, I did this at 40 degrees. You can go over here in any of your design software and just shear at 40 degrees. I'm using Affinity right now, but you can do that. And this is why you don't do it, because it stretches some parts of it. It doesn't stretch other parts. It looks ugly, you know, but it's not super far off from what they've done here. So let me go ahead and put this on top, set this at 50%, and let's just go ahead and shear. And I'll show you that we can twist it like this, but I'm gonna go ahead and type it in at -40. And there we go. Much like a cooking show, I have prepared this. So let's just go ahead and get rid of that real quick. And I will show you this at 40 degrees. I'm going to turn on the layer. There it is right here. And at first glance, I was like, holy shit, did they actually just shear this? Because you look at this A, and if we, you know, made this pixel perfect, it would like perfectly match up with this one. If we really refined it right there, it's darn close. But then you get to something like the B, and you can immediately see that they fixed the B because they fixed the counters, they fixed the bowls. I don't know, would you call those bowls? They fixed this outside part on the right. Immediately on the C, so the red part is the manual shearing, and you can see how ugly that part would be on the bottom and how ugly this would be on the top corner, because whichever corner you're pushing away from, it's going to get real ugly. Same with the D here. So if you were trying to do something like this with an old school typeface like Impact, you might look at this and be like, yeah, that's fine. But then if you get your eyes on something that is like designed well, it's like you're getting the shearing, but you're getting the even weight throughout it. You're getting the even spacing. So it looks really nice and clean without looking like you don't know what you're doing. To maybe to like someone that's first, you know, maybe to someone that was like a design student or something like that, they might think that it was manually sheared right off the bat. But all you got to do is just overlay it or just shear another font like this, and you can immediately see how much more legible. I mean, it's incredibly illegible, but you can see how much more legible it is. Let's see, we can get a slant of 20 on this. Let's go ahead and shear this one at -20, and then we'll move on to the next thing. -20 right there. So even with just like -20% shearing on the top and bottom, you can see how much nicer the manually, the actually designed sheared typeface looks. Okay, let me make sure. Yep, we're gonna move on. The licensing on this one, like I said, it's standard. No reason to go and look at this. It's gonna have like your desktop, web, and your app. 700 euros. Maybe that's worth it. Maybe it's not. But I would, this is why trial fonts are so useful, because I would definitely download the trial and make sure that it actually works for you if you were going to purchase this, because for me, it doesn't work. And for me, that would be, I might reach out to the Foundry if like I really wanted this typeface, but that would be a big red flag for me, and I probably wouldn't buy a font that was broken right out of the gate. Yes, it's a new release. Maybe it's a problem on my computer, but it shouldn't matter what computer you're on. You should be able to download a font and use it on any modern computer with modern software. I didn't pull this up in like an office editing office, like a Word editor or anything like that, but it should work in Affinity. There's not really an excuse for it not to. So otherwise, nice looking font. Let me check chat here. Daryl, welcome back. Shallow extenders. Yeah, pretty shallow extenders on this. The G's super shallow there. The J just barely gets below the baseline. But it looks nice. I think with a typeface like this, you probably reduce your leading quite a bit. You can see here, I've got it pretty tight. Not as tight as it can go, but yeah, it's so bold in the middle, especially with the extended ones, that those shallow extenders really help out. Let's see real quick. Are they the same with these here? Yeah, they're still pretty shallow. I think when you get wide, it just keeps that same depth. Anyway, that is Shear from Hot Type, new release. Let me get a drink of water and we will move on to, let's see if I can say it right this time, Ipazia. Okay, so our final story and our second deep dive, I should have said that the opposite way. Our second story, our second deep dive and our final story of the episode is Cast's Ipazia. We looked at this last week or last episode as well, but let me go ahead and pull up the website real quick for you just to give you a refresher. Maybe. I think they have a nice specimen right here. The interesting thing about this one was that, there they are right there. The weights last week, I said, you can see on the left there, the book weight and the extra bold weight, they feel like they're in the same family, but the serifs almost completely disappear on extra bold. And when just looking at this image right here, what I assumed last week was that the stems were growing into the serifs, but surprisingly, the serifs actually get even smaller on the heavyweights. So these book weights, obviously the bottom three here, book, regular, and medium, are designed for smaller sizes, probably, so you can have still have those serifs. But I believe all of this, let me check my notes real quick. I believe all of this is made for, yeah, all of this is made for body copy. So all of this that we're looking at today is supposed to be a text weight. So even the extra bold one, even when we get all the way up to this one right here, this is still a text weight. They said display is on the way, and this makes sense because you've still got some big ink traps in there. So it's just by choice that they've done this, not necessarily based on like optical sizing. So let's go ahead and get this back to regular. First things first, let's go through the details because this is obviously a serif typeface, but I think this could be a great workhorse for the right person. Any font is for the right person, you know, but this one's got capitals, it's got small caps, and it's got the lowercase, obviously. But the small caps already is going to set it apart from a lot of serif typefaces. They did give some inspiration, but I don't think it necessarily matters. I think that you could kind of put this against, I mean, it matters for backstory and stuff, but I think you could put this up against any standard text serif typeface and potentially see this as a replacement. Ooh, look at that L. It's kind of going below the baseline there. That's interesting. Kind of dropping down. Huh. Nice splayed M. So it's got some contrast. You know, I'd say moderate contrast. It's definitely not low contrast, but it's also not like a super high Didone contrast. You'll notice there are quite a few green characters, green glyphs. I've pre-marked the ones that we're going to change today with the alternates to hopefully save some time. I like these fractions. That's why I paused here for a second. It does have both styles of fractions, though. If we look at the italics real quick, it's got the diagonal ones, and it's also got the stacked ones, which I think is kind of fun. These actually, the stacked ones kind of have a little diagonal on them too, don't they? But they're stacked. And they match the tabular figures. So if you switch to tabular, you'll get to those. Small caps there, like I said, as we always test out. Let's go ahead and, oops. Well, we don't need to test it out. You can see the stroke weight is the same there. They're real. They're real. We can trust that. Pretty big serifs on here, like pretty big brackets on the serifs, which is nice. Yeah, I really like this typeface. Like I said, you can see the influence here. We've got some like old style numbers with this one here, and these aren't even the actual old style numbers. We'll get to those in a second. But I just want to show you the italics first because it does have true italics. Daryl says that's a weird J. Yeah, lucky for you, it has an alternate. We'll get to it. But yeah, it's got a funny hook in it. So these are italics. They are true italics. So some of these, you know, are oblique-ish. But when we get to the lowercase, that's when you typically see the true italics, and I think you will see those shining through. So let's go ahead and skip over the small caps. does have small cap italics, obviously, but now we can really see the true italics here. These are much more calligraphic, much more flowing. I liked the F. I like the uppercase F as well. I'm trying to move around a little bit. Oh no, it was the lowercase that I liked. I like that lowercase F. Apologize. I like the italic lowercase F. It feels like a sword or a dagger or something. But yeah, you can see the green ones here. Those are going to be all the ones that we can change. But this is the definition of a true italic. You know, it's nice, it's flowing, it's got that calligraphic pen that swipes, you know, swashes from the top right or top left to the bottom right. Yeah, like your first calligraphy book that you get is going to teach you to do that. I am nowhere near a master calligrapher, but even I know that, so I can see the influence on it. Let's get into some of these alternates here. Let's go ahead and see if we can fix Daryl's J for him. So I'm going to be able to swap all of these at once with alternate shapes. We're going to zoom in on some of these as we go though. So you can see the first alternate shapes here are going to be the C and the D, and you can see it's changing those serifs to like get rid of that little bracketing there and just kind of just fill that in. I'm not sure, you know, it almost seems like a little bit of decisiveness maybe about which one was better, but I don't mind it. You know, digital fonts, it's not like metal where you have to buy another piece of metal. You just get it. So there's the alternate J there, much more traditional. You know, goes a little bit below the baseline. So it would depend, you know, if you want to stack it. Even that one's going a little below the baseline. But yeah, much more traditional J there, along with the K with the tapered leg as opposed to the serifed leg. So these do all change at once. So the alternate, they just have this labeled as alternate shapes as the first stylistic set here. So that's why I've just gone ahead and labeled them in green. You can't change them individually. Obviously, you could highlight one character and change that individually. But just in general, if you have your text selected and you hit alternate shapes, you're going to change all of them at once. So this one here, just pushing out that R a little bit. Let's see how that compares to the P. So they're actually not changing the P, which is interesting. I wonder why they're opening up that R a little bit more like that. Ampersand, we've got 3 different ampersands here though. Daryl says, overall I like it, but the 1 should have an alternate 2. Does it have an alternate? That's interesting. I don't have it marked green. We're gonna have to double check. I would agree though. I would absolutely agree that it should have an alternate, because the old school like I1 doesn't make sense, but they do have it there on the fraction. So maybe they do and I just didn't notice it. We will find out. So here's the ampersand right here. If we do the alternate shapes, that does nothing. But if we do the cursive ampersand, there it is right there. Got the old school ET at. I do believe, I thought there was 3 different ones. Maybe not. Yeah, I guess we just have the cursive one there. Okay, that's fine. Two different ampersands. I'm not sure why I thought there were 3. Oh, italics have 3. Okay, we're gonna get to it in a second. So we've got the lowercase j here. I probably don't necessarily need to look at the small caps because these are all gonna be the same. So we'll skip past those. But look at this I and J right here. So this is the alternates. Here's the original. So it's got that same hooked J. You can get the alternate on this one. Boom, more traditional. But so this is the one issue. If you were changing to the alternates, you can't just go in and click like change all the J's in my body copy. I mean, you'd have to go through, and I don't know how you do that. You know, it really would be a headache to try and do this outside of a headline or something. If you wanted this J right here, the alternate J in your body copy, you can't just click alternate shapes and only change the J's. Obviously, it would probably be nice to change the uppercase J. You're going to get this very interesting I right here, along with every other green glyph that we've showed so far. So that would be my one complaint about this one, because overall, I really do like the typeface. The S here, this is just going to match the... that's interesting. It's doing the opposite. So the standard one here has that S filled in, and then the alternate has the little spur, the little serifs on there. Whereas this default C and D have those little bracket serifs on there. And when you switch to the... Oh, I lied. Okay, they all match. Don't worry, I'm dumb. The alternates have these serifs, whereas the default ones are filled in. So the default S is filled in as well. Ignore my mistake. Let's check out this one here. So we've got the 2. It's got the alternate on it. I kind of like the little teardrop better. But let's see if we can get this 1 changed. Proportional? No. Lining? No. Are we still selected on this? Huh. Yeah, that's a good point, Daryl. I'm not sure. Yeah, because it looks like an old style 1. Like it looks like this. You would expect it on the old style. But on the lining numerals, it is interesting that it's basically an I, unless I typed an I. No, because it changed to a 1, obviously. Huh. Let's see if we change it to tabular. Nope. Huh. Yeah, that's really interesting because they do have the 1 right here on the fractions, but the standard 1, the default 1 with no way to change it is that one right there. I feel like that's a legitimate criticism. Let's go ahead and look at some of the lowercase here. So I'll just look at this on the big, like zoomed out, because I think most of this is going to feel pretty similar. Alternate shapes, you're getting a lot of the same stuff. You do have the H and the I here. These make more sense, I think, in the italic version as opposed to the Roman. But this one here has 3 ampersands. Let's just check out these W real quick. W and the S. I'm interested to see what these look like. Yeah. Just gets that little curl in the middle there. Not bad. So let's look at the ampersand. I love a good ampersand. I think everybody does. So cursive ampersand, similar to what we just saw, except made italic. Alternate ampersand, the old school lowercase et. You see sometimes used on like books that are old or want to look fancy. But yeah, so we've got 3 different ones for the italics there. We've got the alternate, they're calling it, with the lowercase e. We've got this cursive ampersand with the ET that we know and recognize, you know and love that one from Garamond and stuff like that. And then we've got the standard one there. So that's pretty nice. I like the fractions as well on that one. This one is variable. I didn't even show that, did I? This one is variable in its weights. So if we select all of this, it's got a nice slider here, and we can go up and down. Let me go ahead and show you the regular one. I think the italic at super big gets very characterful. Like we said, the serifs are kind of, almost disappearing at these bigger sizes. That's one of the biggest features, and I've totally skipped over it. I apologize. So let's do the weights here on the standard, on this one right here. Let's get rid of all the alternate shapes real quick and anything else weird. Okay. And then let's play around with this weight. So it starts at 100, goes all the way up to 900. They're letting me push it to 1,000, but it should only go to 900. And you can see, if we zoom in on this right here, you can see the serif. Let's get this like fully on the screen so we can like really see it. The serif right there is that wide at the lowest weight. And as we go in, the serif itself goes in. So originally I thought that the serif stayed the same and then the stems just got thicker around it. But you can see the serif is actually going in at the same time. So that's pretty interesting. We could scroll through these real quick, I guess, but you get the idea. I think it looks nice at these bolder weights too. Keeps all the, the same, all the same features and stuff like that, but it does look nice. I think the alternates work well too. I do think Daryl has a legitimate criticism with the one there. It looks nice in this context, but I do think you want like a traditional one like this. Maybe it's buried in the glyphs. Like maybe we could go in and find it in the glyph browser. But you don't want to have to do that every single time. No, it doesn't look like it. There's like there's this one that can be like, for a superscript and stuff like that. But the one is just like the only traditional one that you can get are on the fractions. You can also see the slash right here I have. That's just to let you know that this does not have those kind of fractions. You can only get, a handful of them. You can get like 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, just the basic ones. Let's go ahead and move on. Let's look at this in body copy, and as expected for a text font, it looks beautiful. I do think the italic does a great job of standing out amongst the Roman. I think the small caps up here look excellent inside of that. You can see right there the weight of that, the spacing, everything looks perfect as a nice small cap should. And I think that the bold stands out well. I bumped it up two weights from the book up to bold. And I think even though these serifs here at the heavier weights kind of start to shrink. I think when you're just at the regular bold, it doesn't feel out of place at all. It feels very well in place. And you can get some pretty fun stuff going on up here. This looks a little horsey. You know, this is made for text sizes. You've got the big ink traps and stuff on it. But I imagine that this is going to be really, really fun when it gets to the display style version of it. So this is supposed to be just for text. Extra bold right there. This is just supposed to be for text. It's not made for big sizes. So it's not going to look the most elegant in headlines, but it doesn't look terrible. Let me check my notes, make sure I didn't miss anything. Mostly standard license on this one. I think this is the big selling point though, 300 euros for a family on desktop. Let me go check the license real quick and we can see what I meant by mostly standard. Okay. So typical, you know, layout over here, desktop, web, app, broadcast, and server. Okay, yeah. So when I say standard, typically I mean like desktop, web, and app, but broadcast and server, I don't necessarily, you know, we see those added on. Server, I completely understand. Broadcast, if they're limiting this to like HBO and Netflix and stuff like that, I totally get it. You know, big like movies and things like that, it makes sense. When they include YouTube videos with broadcasts, it's a little bit, I don't know, it feels like a little bit out of touch to me because, let's just go ahead and go to the full face cam. When they include YouTube in the broadcast license, it feels super out of touch to me because they'll have like, how many videos are you gonna make? And it's like, I'm gonna pay like $1,000 for every video that I make with this font. Like, no way. Like, it's just clear that they're not like, they're not interested in small businesses as a customer for that. Okay, chat looks good. Everything looks good. I will not be here on Monday. If you're watching the replay of this, let me know what your thoughts are on going like not short form, but like you'll never see me on you'll never see me doing like the 30-second TikToks and stuff like that or YouTube shorts. But let me know what you think about doing like individual stories. It's not something that's going to change right now. I like doing the live streams. I like interacting. I like being able to like do this stuff. And maybe there's a way I could still do both. But I do think from like a strategic standpoint, maybe like individual stories make more sense to get like more people to watch it. But also I like watching big long videos at the same time. So I don't know, just a wild thought that I had. So if you're watching this, leave a comment, let me know. Thank you for hanging out in chat. ONG Studio, Jim, Girth, and Daryl. Good to see you guys again. And I will see everyone on Wednesday. Have a good weekend. Have a good early week. And I will see you for Typography News number 46. We'll look at those typefaces, do some deep dives, look at some more new releases. Maybe we'll get some more information about Adobe and that Jessica Walsh Foundry with Zelotype. We'll see. So have a good night. I've been Curtis Simpson. This was Typography News. I will see you on Wednesday. Bye.